they'll say, oh, I'm going to give them 1 share of NVIDIA, and I'm giving 1 share every year during Christmas, and then, when the kid wakes up to go to school, as a college sophomore, and they go, oh, I have those stocks, I need to sell them. They get they get the original cost basis that Grandpa put in place, and they're going to have to pay all this capital gains tax on the difference.
So, one question we've been getting. So we do like to do top questions from clients. One question we've got a couple of times. I'm gonna throw it to you guys, but I'm gonna stage it a little bit. Is that we're getting more and more people that have significant money, let's call it significant wealth, and they know that it's going to go to their kids or inheritance. But rather than wait until they die and then pass it on, they want to see they personally, as clients, would like to see their kids or their inheritance have some enjoyment out of that money for things they could actually use right now. Rather than, again, you're dead and, hey, great, that they're going to get it, but you don't get to see them smile or use it or, use it over the next 20 years, however long they have. So we've got that question a couple of times recently on how do I give money to my kids or my inheritance the right way? Are there rules on that? And this kind of crosses over into what we do working with CPAs as well, because this is definitely a CPA question, but it's something we have some knowledge over. So when do you guys want to take that on?
I'm seeing more of it too. I think, a very old way of thinking. We deal with clients of many generations, and you think of some of the first people that we ever dealt with and some of the oldest people we've ever dealt with. It was always the case where money was very secretive. You kind of keep it hidden, didn't really discuss it with your children, and then you die, and then they get it. And that's kind of the way that it's always been. And it's like, well, I'm going to keep this from them. They're never going to know about it until they know about all of it.
Right.
And it's like, what's the point? And then by the time, if someone's fortunate enough to live a long life, and let's say they live into their 80s or even well into their 90s, by the time their children actually get it, and oftentimes they don't need it. They've already gone through the struggles. Yep. They've gone through the hardships. Their home might already even be paid off. And now they're getting this potential windfall of money.
Mm-hmm.
And now they're dealing with more estate problems on their end because they didn't even need it at that point in time. And so if there's a way that it can be structured that when your children are in their, let's even say their 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, things like that, where they're going through stages of life, and you can structure it in a way that they're going to get the money anyway, but you're able to see the benefit from it now, help it now, or maybe you're doing traveling or trips with your kids and grandkids, and you're able to actually enjoy this money and see your grandchildren enjoy it, as opposed to just leaving it on top of your tombstone.
Yeah.
So we're seeing, and then there's ways that if you do want to transition some of that wealth, you can also take advantage of tax strategies too.
Mm-hmm.
We can mention gifting and things like that, but that's where a CPA getting involved in estate planning, trust work, things like that can really help, as opposed to just keeping everything hidden in the bat cave and then just die.
So
load it on everybody.
Let's ask it this way: if you had a client that called you up and said, "Hey, I want to give $100,000 to my kid because I'm at that point in life where it's excess. I think they can use it more, and I have all this money in XYZ stock, and then I have cash." What are you telling them to give?
Yeah. So, it depends on their net worth too.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. It depends on their net worth. Because right now, a lot of people, and we get these questions too, this can get complicated, and this is not everyone's common language, but they think if they give their child money, that someone's going to have to pay tax on this.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be income or something like that. And that's not the case. You can give your kids, frankly, as much money as you want to give them. But we're allowed in this country to die with a certain amount of money without having an estate tax. Currently, that number is $13.61 million per spouse.
Don't get excited because that changes.
Per person.
Yeah.
Per person.
per person.
Yep.
Or $26 million if you're married. And that number changes, and it has potential to go down, go away, go up. We don't really know, but that's what it is right now. And so you can give as much money as you want to anybody, but we can kind of break down how that works. So if you give $18,000 or less to anyone, then you don't have to record it. You don't have to tell the CPA. You're staying within the gifting limits per year. But if you want to give let's say you give your son or daughter $100,000, then any amount in whatever tax year it is, any amount that you're over the limit of what you can give, it's not taxable to your child. It's not taxable to you. You just got to tell the CPA what you did. They're going to put a little note in your file. And then instead of you being able to die with 13.6 million, you'll be able to die with 13 point, whatever it ends up being, above what you gave. But if a person's got a net worth considerably less than 13 million, then don't stress over it. Give your kids what you want. But for the clients of ours that do have net worth that may be near these numbers, if they've got a sizable net worth now and they're 50 years old, they might be struggling with estate taxes at some point in time, then they can start doing these gifting strategies. They can, if they're married, they and their spouse can each give each child 18 grand. And if their kids are married, they can each give the spouse or their daughter or son-in-law another 18 grand, and they could do it to the kids too. So you could really start getting,
So instead of
getting a
so
lot of
people
money out of your
understand,
estate.
instead of doing, you think father and mother giving their son or daughter 18 grand was actually 18 plus 18 plus 18 plus 18.
Right.
Because each the father and the mother can give to the son or daughter, and each the father and mother can give to the son-in-law or daughter-in-law.
Correct.
It's the same family. We're in community property states, so.
Correct. And that's not even including grandchildren. That's not including 529s. And so there's a lot of ways that you can begin getting money, quote, quote, out of the estate if you have numbers that are going to be potentially near that. I mean, theoretically, we all might, because we don't know what it'll be. You really need to know who the president's going to be when you die. And then you might have a good idea what the estate tax limits will be.
Well, even then, so I think what we're dealing right now is you're talking about estate laws that went in about 9 years ago at this point, because I think in 2026 they sunset. And so the 13.6 right now, if nothing happens, if no law changes, it's automatically going to go down to $7.5 million a person, which again is for a pretty small group of society, but it's going to impact some people. And so
talk real quick about what happens over 13.61 or 7.5 million. What happens over that number?
So let's just say a single person, just for ease, dies with $15-ish million. Then everything above that 13.6, and again, don't cloud it up with retirement accounts and other things like that. But just you died with $15 million in cash in the bank.
And land. Or building.
I'm saying you don't own
worth.
anything. You rent an apartment.
Okay.
You have a cash account at the bank that has $15 million. So nothing complicated. Your estate is going to have to pay estate tax on everything above that 13.6. So in this case, it's 1.4. I'd have to look up what the rates are, but it's in the 30s. It starts in the 30s at the low end. So 30-ish% of that excess $1.4 million would be due in tax. Some goes to the state of California, some goes to the federal government. If you die with $13.59 million, same scenario. You live in an apartment, you have a massive bank account. Your estate has to pay zero tax, and all that goes to whoever
Zero estate tax.
Estate
tax.
tax.
And what Jason was saying is a good point. It's the full value of the estate. So your house, your land, your everything that is included. That's the value of the estate. So. Again, $13 million is still a very large number for most people, but it's not $13 million in the bank. It's $13 million in your entire value of your net worth.
Well, and one of the pitfalls that I think we see clients get close to that we try to keep them away from is they'll typically want to give things like stock, and the problem with doing that is, especially if you're really doing late stage estate planning, is whoever inherits that. If they inherited it after you passed, they're going to get the current market value as what they paid for it, essentially, what we call cost basis. So they're going to get that number. So if you bought a stock in years and years ago, and you paid after splits you paid $1.
You bought NVIDIA 20 years ago.
You got a lot of money.
You wouldn't want to gift that.
Not while you're alive. But if you pass away, the new cost basis for that stock is whatever the current market price is on the day you passed. So if your family member or whoever inherited sells it after that, they're not going to have to pay for the capital gains tax all the way to when you bought it. But the error that sometimes is made is they want to gift down. They'll gift to grandchildren. They'll say, "Oh, I'm going to give them one share of NVIDIA, and I'm giving one share every year during Christmas." And then, when the kid wakes up to go to school, as a college sophomore, and they go, "Oh, I have those stocks. I need to sell them." They get they get the original cost basis that Grandpa put in place, and they're going to have to pay all this capital gains tax on the difference. And so we try to say it this way: if you're giving to people, you want to give cash. if you're giving to nonprofits, you want to give
Stock.
appreciated securities
Yep.
or appreciated anything,
Yeah.
because the difference between those, the nonprofit doesn't pay the difference in tax. You get the full, full credit for the gift based on what the market value is. And, it doesn't, there's nobody assuming your old cost basis. We get to sort of clean that up. But if you're giving to family members, whether it's, holiday gifts or whether you're doing planned gifting around, around your estate planning, you want to try to give cash where possible, unless you're doing something really complex that your attorney has to build specific trusts for. And that's not part of this conversation.
So quick scenario: client wants to give, say they're going to buy a house for their, son and daughter-in-law, and they're going to give them $250,000. What's the steps for that in that particular year?
So if you just want to make it easy and just give, and let's assume it's two people, right?
Yep.
So you'd be able to, so two living donors and giving it to two people.
Two gifters.
You'd be able. What would we say the number was? $72,000. So it's basically dad gives $18,000 to son and daughter-in-law. Mom gives $18,000 to son and daughter-in-law, and that gets the 72 out.
And then what happens to the rest?
The rest you can do it one of a couple ways. Some tax consultants that we work with will say, hey, take a loan, structure it as a loan, and then forgive $72,000 per year, assuming that number doesn't go up.
Yep.
Forgive $72,000 a year going forward, and then you don't have to worry about the unified credit exemption and take anything against that. Or
We're
just
really
take
getting
that,
into the weeds here.
yeah, just take that other at roughly $180,000. Take that other $180 and just take it against that $13.6 million exemption, and just wipe it against that.
And if mom and dad have got a sizable net worth, I agree. You know what I mean? But if mom and dad are worth $1 million, a couple $1 million, they really want to help their kids, it's unlikely going to be an issue.
Right.
Another thing I was just thinking as you said that, though, you could always have the kids buy the home in January. Gift them $72,000 in December 15th, and give them another $72,000 on January 1st.
That's $144.
And so you're knocking out a lot of it, but you're all within a 30-day period of time because you're jumping between two tax years.
Yep.
I think the most important thing on this is that just so us to get a chance to talk about it and so people can hear, this is why you want to bring these things up, because there's lots of, we've mentioned a bunch of different terms here: estate tax, gift tax, annual exclusion,
step up.
How about cost basis?
Cost basis. There's all these things, and honestly, it shouldn't be fearful. They're, like we're saying a lot more of this. I think it's a great thing. I think we all encourage it, especially for clients that have the means. Of course, you want to see your offspring or grandkids, whoever, enjoy the money that you may not need, but bring it up so we can make sure that it's structured properly. And help you walk you through it. We like these questions. I actually really enjoy it because I thought it's a good question, and I wish more people would think about it, and maybe this will encourage people to think about it. I know in the past, like Chris said, we've run into some situations where this is sort of what Jason started with, the old guard, where you hid your money and you didn't really tell anybody. And then right before grandma died, grandpa had already died, and right before grandma died, she wanted to do everybody a favor. And so she gifted them all her appreciated stock because she was trying to be nice, and literally just did the exact wrong thing, because by gifting the stock before she died, they got the current stock cost basis, which caused them a bunch of tax to be due, where if she just would have waited until she passed, they still get it, and it would have been tax-free. So those are the kind of situations where we run into, unfortunately, after the fact, that there's huge mistakes made, and the government's excited about it, but nobody else is.
The good intention is, I didn't want that to go through probate or something along those lines, and the good intention doesn't work out very well.
Bring it up.
Comes knocking.
Goes back to the importance of planning.
Exactly.
100%.
And like I said, sometimes it's just a conversation. In our situation, for what we do, we're not filing gift tax returns or anything, but just bringing it up and talking about it and going, yeah, that's a great idea. You should do that. Talk to your CPA, make sure you get it structured properly. And, it's a good thing.